Good afternoon. Good afternoon. It's Kate Carruth here, your content alchemist, with a bit of content gold on a Wednesday lunchtime. And today it's one of my periodic Voice of the Expert sessions where we talk to somebody else, an expert in their own field, about the role that content plays. And today I'm speaking with Chris Wilson. Chris, good afternoon to you. How are you?
Good afternoon or good morning, wherever I find you today, catching up with this.
So Chris, just to start, would you like to just introduce yourself in a bit more detail, explain who you are, what it is that you do, and a bit about your business?
Yeah, so it's Chris, and this is my business here, Adama Business Consultants. So we're kind of a mixture of a lead generator and also a sales coach, sales enabler, sales trainer. And that's essentially it. So if you're somebody stuck with taking the lead from lead to conversion, then you might want to come and work or go on my content or just engage with me on LinkedIn.
Great. So let's just start, sort of begin at the beginning, if you like. I always use the definition that content is anything that adds value to an audience. So Chris, tell me how content fits when it comes to the sales process, that lead to sale process. How does content fit in that? What's the role that it plays?
All right, well, I'll introduce a very simple model, which I think you're aware of, which is the AIDA principle, way back in the late 1800s, which stands for awareness, interest, desire, and action. And I very much believe that the salesperson fits in with the D and the A. So they're the desire and action bit. And the great content comes from perhaps the marketeer who creates the awareness, suddenly takes notice of Kate or me or your own brand. And then there's enough engagement or emotional triggers in that, which makes them interested. And then that pops over to the sales team as somebody that says, I'm interested, I'm taking notice of your particular brand. And therefore the salesperson then does more to create desire and action. The difficulty, I suppose, with a single business owner or a single coach consultant is that they have to be both marketeer and salesperson, and therefore their content has to join up.
Okay. So, but presumably in that, if you are just the one business owner, consistency is a little bit easier, because at least what you haven't got is one person writing content or creating content that's got one message, and someone in another department who's someone in the sales team who's got content and giving messages that say something else. So there's pros and cons, I guess, in terms of the one-man band over the large team.
Well, completely. And the one-man band has that principal benefit that they are both. But the sales team, I'll often hear the sales team going, can't believe this lead again. How many times have I told marketing we don't like this type of prospect? Or it comes to the sales thing and the prospect says, well, you mean you don't do that? Well, but we've just read that in your blog. Oh, yeah, that blog's about 6 months old. So we've not updated that since. And that's when you get this misalignment between marketing promising and sales saying something, or even worse, the sales team overpromise and then logistics get it and they have to underdeliver. And there's this lack of congruency along all the dots of the customer journey. So the best content is the one that everybody aligns to, everybody subscribes to, and ideally it under promises and everybody over delivers along the way.
Got you. Great. So I'm a content developer for an organization. When I'm planning the content that's going to make for a really good journey through that AIDA model, what are the key get rights? What should I be doing when I'm planning that content?
I always think start with the end in mind. So who is your content specifically trying to appeal to? And a lot of people say, well, I want to work with anybody. Well, anybody doesn't work with the reticular activating system in our heads. We need specificity. So the content has to start with the end in mind. Who is the ideal person that needs to read this? What are they interested in? And what value would we expect them to do from the content? And what's the call to action? So that's the key. Think who is going to read this and what would we want them to learn or do as a result of having it. And then we have to play with the emotion. The content that appeals to humor or horror or fear or engagement or interest is the content, I believe, that's going to enable the sales team to just say, absolutely, Kate, here we are. You come from the marketing team. How can we help you check out of this and become a client?
Okay. Now you've hinted already that there is definitely something when you're planning that content in involving everybody along the chain to make sure that actually what you're saying in something in that awareness piece is actually something that the sales team sell and that the operations team can deliver. So there's a joining up piece there as well. Very
much so. And I always say to my clients, please ask the last customer that bought from you why they did that. And success leaves clues. So when they say, well, actually, my director went on your LinkedIn and they liked your tone of voice, but then we went to your website and it wasn't quite aligned, but we still liked the video that you put out on your social channel. That's the thing that took us over the bridge. And therefore sales can go back to marketing and say, hey, by the way, we've just converted a customer. It was from the LinkedIn site initially. Then they got to the marketing and they kind of got a bit stuck in the messy middle, but the video message still connected with them and they came to the font and started to drink. So sales have to be very inquisitive and not just celebrate the win, but also ask that probing question. So Kate, it's great that you're now a customer. Just help me out here. Why was it that you decided to use me as your content writer? And what was it that wanted you to pick up the phone, ask for that email, or come to the demo? And then you go and tell marketing, this is what worked. Do more of that because we want more leads.
Yeah. Okay, great. So it's like that feedback loop, isn't it? So the more you ask the questions about what are we doing right, the more you can do it right. And therefore the more that generates more of that awareness and interest that leads into the process.
Absolutely. But even the no is a no for a good reason. Don't just take a no and feel all dismissive about it. Say to the no, I'm really genuinely disappointed we can't work you on this occasion. Just for the benefit of the future, where did we go wrong in the process? Why did we not become your ideal client? Well, actually, what happened is that your marketing team said you could do this. And when we came to you as the sales team, it was clear that actually you couldn't deliver that at all. And you've annoyed us because we've wasted our time. What was it in particular then about the marketing team where we didn't connect the dots? Well, it was this. You said you could do this part of e-commerce fulfillment and actually you couldn't. Got it. And then you go back to the marketing team and say, oh, we've really alienated a customer here. You've overpromised this. We as a sales team or the operational team can't deliver, and you need to fix that part of the marketing message.
Cool. Great. So in your experience, where have you seen, where you looked at content within that process, where have you seen where people have not quite got it right, slipped up, made a mistake, that people watching this can learn from in order to, get a better result from the content that they're putting together?
Okay, a number of different facets to this. First of all, I believe that you have to have 100% belief and certainty with the ability of your service or product to deliver on your promise. And if ever you feel that that isn't true, then it'll come across to your customer as lacking authenticity, or they'll stop trusting you. And the word know, like, and trust, the trust aspect is a very important part of the sales journey. The other key thing, I think, is also being very clear with your content and provide value first and check out afterwards. And the content that starts to get the prospect too pressured, too salesy, and starts to try to get them to commit too quickly before they've taken the emotional decision to purchase is also content that I think is incorrect. Content just has to give value after value after value. And at some point in those touch points, the customer will come across and say, hey, I'm on your door. Can you let me in the shop now? As opposed to you sort of being that, person when we've been in those, Canary Islands, and you go past all the bars and there's all those people outside and they're hustling you in and they're trying to offer you bribes and cocktails. And then you go in and you find there's nobody else in the bar and you think, I've just been duped. So the content that makes you feel duped, I think, is the content that is the one that we should try to avoid.
Okay. So let's just unpick that slightly. You say, you know, content should give value, give value, give value. How does one, because this is something that you know, I get quite a bit of concern from some of my clients sometimes, is they don't want to give away all the answers, because if they give all the answers in that content, then why would someone buy from them at all? And that's particularly a case, I think, when we're talking about services rather than products. You know, if you're a coach or if you're an accountant or something like that, if you give too much, how do you balance that with someone wanting to work with you if you've given them all the answers?
Well, I would say give them the map, but only give them a certain part of the map. So you might do a webinar, for example, in my perspective, we might do a webinar on referrals and cross-selling. But during the referral and cross-selling webinar, you seed enough interest to say, this is the final part of our methodology of how you bring a client from unaware to client. If you'd like to know more of this, then you can engage with us in XYZ. So you kind of give them the clues, but you mess them up a little bit to say, if you want the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 steps of 7, this is the way to do it. But I hope that they get enough engagement and value from that one little piece that you give them, but then you say the other pieces of the jigsaw are in a box that will cost you, or you need to engage with us more fully on.
Great. And just to sort of share from your experience, where have you seen content working really well in a sales process? Where have you seen some fantastic examples? You know, somebody who's done something clever or really imaginative, or that's just really worked incredibly well for them?
Oh, tough question, because I think customers have many, many touch points. And I think if you rely on one sole content piece, you're likely to not engage with all of your prospects, because we have auditory, somatic, visual, and other aspects of the way that we all like to learn. So I think overall, it would be a mixed message, and it might be, here's my ebook, here's our white paper, here's our webinar, here's our mastermind, here's our cheat sheet. And that's the best content. I think you just keep on providing more clues as to how you are a voice of authority, or a place of trust, or a place of value. And as and when they're ready, they'll jump on the door and knock on to say, hi, I'm here. Can you let me in, please? And can we engage further with you? But the person that just says, right, I've done my ebook, and then sits back and sort of waits for all the people to come across the finish line, is perhaps the person that's going to sit and wait for a long time, because you need to almost attract them to your shop window. And then they sort of peer through the glass and you say, hey, come in, you know, come and have a look around. Why don't I show you? Why don't we sit down and talk about where you want to move the furniture and how you want to move the things around? But you've got to bring people to the shop window with enough sort of treats and sweets, and then bring them in.
So come in and browse, rather than, if you walk over the door, if you walk over the threshold, you've got to buy something. So you can come in, have a browse, have a look around, see all of the things. I get it. Yeah, I like that metaphor of it being like a retail shop, you know, like an old-fashioned shop where you'd go in and have a look around, and there'd be lots of different ways to look at it. So you're advocating across multiple channels, as well as lots of different tools, presumably.
Yeah, so you need to be where your customers are, and you can't always rely that all of your customers are in one place. Some people say, oh, LinkedIn is not for me, but if most of your prospects lurk on LinkedIn, well, you need to learn how to lurk on LinkedIn. If most of your prospects like to go networking in peer-to-peer professional circuits, then that's where you need to go. So, you know, success leaves clues. The other thing about your shop window is that when you're starting up the content, make sure that your shop window is ready for scrutiny. Therefore, your website's up to date, your content places are up to date. Wherever they go and land and start to look at you, you're happy that the shop window is a good representation of the message that your content machine is putting out there. The worst thing is that you say you're fantastic, and then they go on your blog and it's 6 months old. You've not posted on LinkedIn for the last 3 months. Your Google reviews are 2 years old and they're referring to an old business. So just think, how is my customer being engaged in my content? And then ready and go with it, and making sure that it's true authenticity. And I'm a little bit, when we export our content to a third party, that's also a tricky area. And I'd love to talk to a bit more about you as to how you represent yourself in an authentic way as a third party, perhaps. But maybe that's something that we can talk about in the future.
One for another conversation. Chris, this has been fantastic, and I know that everyone who sees this is going to find it really, really useful and helpful. Sales is an area where, as you well know, lots of people struggle and feel emotionally not ready to go selling. So if people want to learn more about you, how can they find you? Where's the best place to look, and what can they do to sort of reach out and get in touch?
All right. Well, that's the website. So adamo.solutions is our URL. LinkedIn is a platform that I spend an awful lot of time in, and I hopefully provide some value on. So Chris Wilson, Sales Coach, would be my LinkedIn. And I've also got a little Facebook group that's private, which is Sales and Mindset Habits. So you can go on there and become part of our little exclusive club on Facebook if you'd like to go in there as well. Or just give me a call.
Chris, fantastic. Thank you so much for your time today. I will make sure all those links are in the show notes. But I can never remember if it's above or below, but it'll be on the screen somewhere for that. And obviously, you can also check out on the Creative Words website. We'll have a blog version of this there as well. And all Chris's details will be there. So that is it from us for this month. Chris, once more, thank you very much for your time. I will be back next month. We are still talking about storytelling, so there'll be some more on the storytelling world coming up. That's it for this afternoon. If you know anybody who you think will find this useful, do please tag them in the comments below or share this post, and we'll see you soon. Have a golden afternoon.